Should you fire your intake manager? I want to ask you a question and I need you to answer it honestly. When did you last listen to an intake call? Not skimmed a summary, not read an emailed summary, actually sat down, start to finish, and listened. If your answer sounds anything like, oh, we don't record them, we need to talk. The reality is that you're probably spending thousands of dollars in marketing and your intake is quietly giving those cases away. And nobody's telling you because nobody's looking. Today, we're going to talk about the 5 signs that your intake is losing you cases and revenue, and one question you need to answer honestly at the very end. Quick context, my name is Hugo E. Gomez. I'm the founder of Abogados now. We've worked with hundreds of law firms nationwide. I would say 50% of all of our clients are in PI. We've influenced over $250 million in client fees, and we're a Google Premier partner, which puts us at the top 3% of agencies in the whole world. Humble brag. We sit inside hundreds of law firms every day in their funnels. We see their spend, we see the leads, and frankly, we see exactly where they disappear. $62 billion, that's the PI legal market in 2025. It is the most competitive intake environment in all of professional services. And the firms winning it aren't just outspending you on ads. Honestly, they're out converting you on intake. 79% of legal customers hire the first attorney who responds, not the best attorney, not the most experienced attorney, not the one who has the most billboards, really the first one that answers the call. That's the whole game: speed, empathy, and professionalism in the first 90 seconds of an interaction. Sign number one, they can't tell you your response time. Walk up to your intake manager right after this video and ask them, what's her average response time to a new lead? If they can't answer it or they just say pretty fast, I think that's not an answer, that's a prayer. Leads contacted within 1 minute are 391% more likely to convert. After 60 minutes, the likelihood of even making a contact drops 10 times. And if you're wondering what the industry average is for lead response time, it's 17 hours. You paid $300 for that click. You paid for the SEO. You paid for the TV spot, the billboard, the Google ads, the meta ads. The lead came in, and your intake team got back to them the next business day, by which point they'd already signed with whoever called them back first. No number means no system. If your intake manager can't tell you your response time, they are not managing an intake operation. They're just answering a phone and hoping for the best. Sign number two, they have no script or it hasn't changed in about 7 years. Intake is sales, full stop. I know some attorneys bristle at that word, but the opening 90 seconds of an intake call is a sales conversation, and every serious sales operation has a tested, optimized script. The $50 million PI firms record every call, review them, and A/B test their opening lines the same way they test ad creative. In fact, at Abogados now, we run every call through AI analysis for empathy reports. They have someone whose entire job is listening to calls and figuring out why people didn't sign. Most other firms that we know, there's probably some laminated sheet somewhere under a coffee ring, the same script since the firm opened. Meanwhile, the firm across town just ran a full intake optimization, updated their CRMs, updated their scripts, and cut their lead to sign time in half, and now is converting twice as many of the same leads you're both paying for. The math on a $100,000 a month ad budget is pretty stark. If you're generating 300 leads at a 3% intake conversion, your firm is generating 9 cases. At a 10% intake conversion, more optimized, that's 30 cases. Same leads, same spend. The only difference is what happens when the phone rings. Sign number three, nobody's covering after hours. Did you know that PI calls mostly come in after hours? Only a third of calls come in on weekdays 9 to 5, which is standard business hours. Almost 40% happen during the evenings, and the other 30% happen on the weekends. Car accidents don't happen at 10 a.m. on a Tuesday. The majority of PI cases occur outside standard business hours. 26% of law firms never respond to online leads. Not slowly, never. You paid real money to generate that lead and it just sits there. That's not a slow response problem. That's a complete system failure. When they hit your voicemail at 8 p.m. on Saturday, they hang up and simply call the next firm who will answer their call. That call went somewhere, and that firm just signed your case. Sign number four, they treat Spanish speaking callers like a problem to be handled. Let's be honest, 20% of the United States is Hispanic, many of which only speak Spanish. It's the fastest growing demographic in the United States, and the PI cases are there. The demand is there. In fact, we wouldn't be in business at Abogados now if this weren't the truth. Before we agree to work with a PI law firm, we like to audit and do our diligence on their intake. And when someone calls in Spanish, if it's really poor intake, the call goes something like, hold on, let me see if someone can help you. And sometimes this actually happens. They're told to call back. You're not just losing a lead, you're losing a referral network. The way you treat that first caller gets talked about. Believe it or not, only 22% of PI firms have bilingual intake capabilities. 78% don't, while the Hispanic population represents 20% of the country and growing. That's the window, and it's closing. Sign number five, they can't tell you how many leads they didn't sign or why. Ask your intake manager this. Of the leads last month, how many didn't sign and why not? If the answer is, I'm not sure, or we'd had to pull that, that's your answer. You don't have a measurement system, you have hope. The firms doing 50 million plus every year know this. They know their conversion rate by intake rep, by time of day, by lead source, by case type, and they also know why each non-signed lead walked away. And here's the excuse you'll always hear. The leads suck. The leads aren't good. Blah, blah, blah. We've heard it time and time again. That's a human being who called your firm for help and left without signing. Something happened in that interaction that needs to be analyzed at scale. And if you don't know what it was, it's going to keep happening every day silently. So the question you came here for, should you fire your intake manager? Here's the uncomfortable answer. Probably not yet. The intake manager isn't typically the only problem. It's really that your firm never really built an intake operation. In most cases, they're a person doing a job with, you know, limited infrastructure, very little measurement, not much training, and no accountability systems around them. That's not their fault. That's a management decision. So take a look at what's on your screen. Whenever a firm works with Abogados now, we do an audit of what they have, what they don't have. And typically, most firms know their response times. But also, most firms have very limited or no recordings of calls, especially it's non-existent with AI analysis. And that is so important. Like everyone needs AI analysis for every single call. After hours live coverage, conversion tracking by intake rep, and unique bilingual intake pathways. At Avocados now, intake is the first thing we look at. It is the secret sauce to any marketing campaign. Because it doesn't matter how good your campaigns are if the leads are leaking out the other end. Most agencies and most consultants only focus on creative, and that is important, but it's being commoditized, as is messaging. The reality is that intake systems that convert cases and convert leads into cases is the make or break in all of this. It's the glue between your organization and the market out there. But also under spoken about way too often is data infrastructure. You not only need to know where cases are being signed, you also need to understand why cases aren't being signed at the campaign level, at the creative level, at the conversion rep level. It all matters. So if you're looking to really level up, not just your marketing and expand and scale into the Hispanic market, but also really update your intake operations beyond scripting, but also in tech and attribution and training. That's exactly what we do, namely for PI firms that want to be market leaders. The link is below in the call notes. Book a strategy call. Who knows, you might meet with me directly. Let's find the leaks and get you more cases. Thank you.